Yeah, welcome to the Trend Zone Football Dudes Extranomical Fantasy Show. He's Dave. I'm Casey. It's time to talk a little fantasy.
Casey, can you live this fantasy life?
Dave, it's not reality. It's just a fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
And this is just a little taste of what you're going to get on the Trend Zone when you subscribe to the Trend Zone podcast. In the Big Daddy of the show, we go over all the top trending stories and every game from the upcoming week. You subscribe to this, you get that thrown in. It's like a twofer, Dave.
It's a great deal, Casey, and all of it is FOC, free of charge.
Ooh, I like it. You're speaking my language, baby. Free is me.
Let's get it
Scumbagging on
going.
it. All
Let's get it
right.
going, huh?
Survivor, 3 strikes.
Yeah, I had New Orleans over Chicago. Took care of business. The team that plays the Chicago Bears. Good, easy money.
Hey, I was right there with you, baby. That was the easiest one of the bunch. It was the money badgent versus the honey badger. And the honey
Oh,
badger got all of that action, baby.
nice. Yeah, last week, Casey, the most popular correct pick was Cleveland over Arizona with a whopping nearly 58%. Most popular incorrect pick, Atlanta over Minnesota, but just a minuscule 1.66%.
And that's about the amount of the game that Minnesota was ahead in that thing. Atlanta leading the whole time, and then they got dubbed. They got dubbed. You got just dubbed, mate. He's not
Nice.
English, but I just did him in an accent.
Right. Of course.
Why not, love?
What about next week, Casey? Come on, talk about it.
Yeah, the most popular pick going in is my Dallas Cowboys over the New York Gigantes at over 34%.
Another nice pick, though, Casey. You already used the Dallas Cowboys, would be the Buffalo Bills over the Denver Broncos. That one's sitting at just under 23%.
Yeah, I used the Cowboys when they played those Cardinals, and I got dubbed that week, so I only got 2 strikes left. So
Brutality. I will be working, in all likelihood, I'm leaning the direction of the Cowboys versus the Giants, or as an other way of saying it, any team versus the Giants.
yeah, oh, it's rough out there. I tell you what, brutality for those Giants in the
Oh,
winker. All
terrible.
right, Dave. It's time for our fantasy go back starts of the week. If you could go back in time and do a little switcheroo on your lineup, would it have mattered?
Casey, it would have mattered if I'd have played Jerome Ford instead of Bijan Robinson. And I'm getting tired of Bijan Robinson not producing. I got to have a little beef with him. And also, most importantly, Kansas City defense instead of Tampa Bay. That combination of those two switches would have netted me 21.8 points, mostly the defensive switch, honestly. I would have scored 124.58 in first place, where I would have been in the money. Instead, I did get the win, but I came in sixth place for no money.
You got that dub though. That's good.
Yeah,
Foul
yeah, I was
boys
wrong.
on a 2-game losing streak have dropped out of the playoffs.
Yeeks.
And of course, these Thursday nights have been screwing me. I got out of it, and I would have done better to not have a player in that game than my George Pickens, who got me a minus point 10 there. So too lazy dragging the foot in the end zone,
Yep.
wide open touchdown, and then he's crying about it after the game. Dude,
Outing.
just handle your business. Just shut the hell up, play, and the opportunities will come. I don't need, you have that, you had it. So,
Yeah. They have
and
a problem with divas over there in Pittsburgh. They draft great receivers, but man,
yeah, it's weird. They've had that, weirdness with those guys. But if I would have played Rashi Rice instead of him and Mr. Robinson in the backfield instead of my Kenneth Walker, that would have gotten me up to about 100 points, but it would not have been enough to take down those disco donkeys who had the Chargers defense for 36 points. I had like a 4-point
brutal.
lead going into Monday night. I was like, okay.
This could work.
And then that punt return went, and I was like, and it's over.
At least you were spared the agony of hoping the whole time.
That's right. It was over quickly. So nice, painless, done, easy breezy, lemon peasy. All right, Dave. We saw what we could have had if we would have switched it over. And sometimes you land on the list of total fantasy domination. Go ahead and give me a quarterback.
Dude, how about this unlikely but incredible performance out of CJ Stroud, the rookie for the Los Burros Locos and also Houston Texans. He threw for 475 TDs, ran for 10 yards, and scored a two-pointer right near the end of that game. I don't know what it was, a minute or whatever it was. I was like, what a great performance. Too bad it's going to be in a losing effort. Woo! Was I wrong? He had one more drive left in him. Amazing.
Dude, it was less than a minute. I think it was like 40 seconds.
Yeah,
And he ripped
insane.
right down there after Baker had just come down to get those Bucks to lead and looked like, oh, we're going to steal this game. Wrong.
Yeah,
Oh,
what
what
a
a great
game. What a
game.
performance.
And how about talking about those Bucks? Rashad White for the Cookie Monster, 73 rush yards, 2 rushing TDs, and 46 receiving yards. Like I said, it looked like they had a win, but not until the whistle blows.
Yep. At wide receiver, it was Tank Dell on the receiving end of a boatload of those throws. For our Green Bud Packers in our league, he had 2 rush yards, but also 114 receiving yards and 2
Ooh,
touchdowns there.
that'll get it done. And Dave, I think this is back to back weeks, if not back to back to back weeks. But
It
you're
is.
Taysom Hill of those lightning strikes for the Saints, baby. 3 pass yards. Oh, but he had a touchdown, a passing touchdown, and 52 rush yards, 13 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. Wish I would listen to the own advice. Scumbag those points, baby. He's the jack of all trades, man.
He is
Difference maker.
multi-purpose, dude. Wow. Golly.
Good game by Taysom. All right. We run our league through NFL.com. 12 teams, non PPR, no flex, 3 wides, 2 running backs, 6 points for quarterbacks, as it should be. Only 5 bench spots, which means you got to burn and churn at the bottom. It's brutal, especially coming into all these bye weeks. But Dave, we got to give it to the commish. Dave is the commish, and he made the waiver wire very sweet.
Yes, it is moved to last after claim never reset, which means after a successful waiver claim, your team is moved to the lowest waiver priority. But if you decide not to take a waiver on in a given week, then your waiver position goes up, up, up. So there's value in being judicious, holding back, and then acquiring a free agent rather than picking up somebody on waivers. That way, your position gets higher for when you absolutely must have a player. Then you are in position to get him, such as myself with the number 1 waiver wire position. Who knows who I'll pick this week, Casey? But I'll have that player.
Yeah, you're just going to camp on that thing. I don't think you're
I
even
know. I
going to
spend the
use it.
rest
You
of the
just
season with that thing going, I'm never going to spend it. It's too
keep
valuable.
it in the pocket just in case. And we only give you guys the players in our league that are available because it is so tight and so competitive. And this week it's going to be very brutal as
Yep.
the Chiefs, the Rams, the Dolphins, and the Eagles are all on buys. So
Woo.
everybody's going to be looking, especially for quarterbacks, Dave. So let's go ahead and start there with the Glamour Boys.
Yeah, how about Josh Dobbs, dude? Unbelievable. Arrives in Minnesota, doesn't know anybody's name, working on the snap count on the sideline to try and get the offensive lineman to know what he's going to sound like with his cadence, dude. What a great player and a great week last week. And a guy, if you need somebody, at least he's going to play pretty well. Threw for 158 and 2 touchdowns last week. Ran for 66 and another touchdown. So, man, putting up big numbers last week in that first appearance on his new squad. Very impressive.
Yeah, and this cat will probably be gone first in the waiver wire. Russell Wilson, the Broncos coming off that bye week, they are playing at Buffalo. Little
Ooh.
stingy defense there, but not what they were at the beginning of the season. It'll be interesting to see what Denver does coming off the bye week. Also, Gardner Minshew out there if you need someone else. And not a great matchup this week. Aiden O'Connell, though, for those Raiders, pretty good last week, and Taylor Heineke. So there are some options for this bye week.
Dealer's choice at this point.
That's right. And Dave, shockingly, there is a ton of meat on the free agent running back bone.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's start it off with the new guy on the block, Baltimore Ravens running back Keaton Mitchell. Cinderella story out of nowhere, Casey. I'll tell you what. Guy gets his first NFL carry and ends up totaling 9 carries in the game for 138 yards and a touchdown. He is a speedy dude, big play waiting to happen. And, there's still Justice Hill and Gus Edwards there on the team, but That didn't slow this guy down from
Mm-mm.
making an enormous impact in his first ever performance on the football field. First touches, and wow, lit it up. Also, Casey, how about Leonard Fournette joining the Buffalo Bills? You know, I mean, they're still looking for somebody to run the ball
Yeah.
effectively. Who knows? Playoff Lenny might be ready to shape into form here in the near future. Still, it's kind of a gamble there, but if you can stash a guy, maybe somebody like Fournette would be a good dude to think about.
Yeah, dude. Tyler Algier, he's available here. We're talking about
Yeah,
the lack of production out of Bijan.
true.
Algier coming off a real nice week. Jaleel McLaughlin for those Broncos too. If you want to get drunk on donkey power, he's there as well. Damian Pierce. It seems like Singletary might be the guy moving forward, but actually some pretty good names out here on that.
Yeah, another guy is Ty Chandler for the Minnesota Vikings. They haven't been able to
Yeah.
run for squat all year, but they did bring in Cam Akers. He is now gone for the year. Madison has not been the answer. Again, if you got a spot to stash a dude, maybe he ends up being the guy. And now that they've got some new life with Dobbs on the roster and Jefferson coming back, so who knows?
It's going to be real interesting to see what happens with these Vikings moving forward. You could not deny the electricity of Dobbs last week, and he is so much more dangerous, running obviously than Kirk Cousins was, but it adds a whole new layer to that offense when they do get Jetta back. Who knows, man?
Yeah,
Wild cards are going to be wide open for the rest of these teams. It looks like we know who the division winners are for most, but
yeah.
hell,
Wild card races are going to be scrappy.
oh
Oof.
yeah, starting to heat up. All right, Dave. What about the receiver position?
How about New England Patriots Demario Douglas, still available in most leagues? He had a 55-yarder versus the Commandos a couple weeks ago, led the team in snaps and targets. He's playing against a Colts defense that is definitely beatable. So looking to get into the end zone for the first time this year. Another guy I like Casey for the Texans, Noah Brown, man. The way
I'm a
that the
cowboy.
quarterback is playing, holy moly. I mean, hucking the ball around. He's available in almost all leagues right now.
Yeah.
And he just got into the mix lately. A couple weeks ago was 5 targets for 39. Then it was 3 catches, 57. Last week, 6 catches, 153 and a score. That trajectory has him doing crazy stuff this weekend. So look out,
He's going
folks.
for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, the way they're lighting up the scoreboard there right now, it's nuts. So somebody's got to catch those balls besides Tank Dell.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you guys a couple of Seahawks. You're going to have to make that hard choice yourself. Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jake Bobo. These guys have both been getting into the mix there. I feel like Smith and Jigba's got more upside, but just something plucky about Bobo. He kicked so much ass at UCLA,
Yeah,
and he's kicking some ass in the pros too. So going against that Washington secondary, there might be enough for a lot of birds to feast out there.
nice, good call.
And Dave, before we get into the tight ends, I'm going to say I needed someone last week. I went ahead and picked up Trey McBride. I didn't think about how poor the quarterback play was going to be there.
Uh
And
oh.
there was a ton of players that I could have gotten, and every one of them would have scored points for me instead of my two. So I'm just going to let you take this whole tight end segment. I'm just sitting this one out.
Okay, yeah. Well, good. Good news for the people. Casey's calling it off on this one. All right, I got two for the people that are pretty good, Casey. How about Bucks Cade Otten, 70 yards and 2 touchdowns last week? Not that he's going to do that every week, but coming off a really nice performance, obviously he's going to get targeted. And then Jonnu Smith for Falcons, man, 100 yards and a touchdown for him last week too. So both guys coming off really impressive performances.
Okay, fine. Luke Musgrave out there. He's getting healthy again. He had a touchdown as well. He was on my roster early in the year. Had to cut him to make space because we only have 5 bench spots. So that was brutal. But you know what
Couldn't
I
help
did
yourself.
last week? Yeah, I did have Trey, but I used my waiver wire to pick up Evan Ingram, who was on a bye. I
Ooh,
had Waller. He's hurt. So now that's my dude moving forward. So I am feeling good about that. Didn't help me last week, but hopefully moving forward.
pretty clever move projecting ahead, Casey.
That's right. You got to stay on top of it, Dave. Stay in front. All right. What about defenses?
Yeah, what about defenses, Casey? It's interesting because there's a couple of great defenses on the buys this week. That means people are scrapping, and I think people have been, as you've been doing, kind of projecting ahead. I myself am carrying two defenses right now, which is kind of rare, but so there's not a lot out there. So I'm gonna give the people a warning in advance. These are in use in case of emergency. How about the Colts at New England? Okay, and then the Panthers at Chicago. Anybody playing Chicago. Although the Panthers, it's hard to justify. But again, you're playing a Chicago team that's struggled. So they have
Yeah,
run the
that's
ball
putting it
pretty well, but
mildly.
yeah, last week they struggled.
It's
So
very generous. And I said these guys last week, they might have called me crazy. I said the Raiders,
it
and
really
they
does.
destroyed the Giants. This week they play the Jets.
Huh?
It's in Vegas. And some mojo going on, man. Those cats looked happy to be playing football, almost like cancer was cut out of the locker room and the organization. New lease on life there. And I saw this interview. It's probably floating around X or Twitter. Antonio Pearson, they're asking him, why do you have your practice squad guys on the sidelines? He's like, because those guys bust their ass. They're out there doing whatever it takes to give us good looks, to help us in practice. They're Raiders, baby. They're dressed. They're on the sideline. So I thought that was very cool of him to include those guys. They're not suited up, but they're there. And I don't know if something special is happening out there or not, but the vibe was definitely lit.
Dude, it's definitely an addition by subtraction, and of course, a lot of times that kind of boost will happen in the 1 week. So the long-term projection of Antonio Pierce as a coach still a lot more unknown there than it is, like you said, getting that other guy out of the building that clearly had rubbed people wrong, and the team was just done with that situation, and now this new life has just changed everything up in that locker room, and like I said, we'll see how long it can last, but the kid quarterback will have a lot to do with that.
Yeah, everybody's happy. And Pierce, man, I think that guy might be something worth looking into moving forward. We shall see. But moving forward, make sure you guys subscribe to the Trend Zone podcast each and every week of the NFL season. We obviously give you the tasty fantasy talk, your three strikes pool. But then in the Big Daddy show, we look at all the top trending stories and preview all of the games from the upcoming week.
Yep, that's the Extranomical show comes out on Tuesdays. The Big Daddy Trend Zone with all the previews of all the actual real games. That one launches on Wednesday evenings, folks. You got to get it. That's going to the Trend Zone podcast available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music.
Yeah, and if you're out there surfing the webs, go ahead and bookmark footballdudes.com. We will help you dominate your fantasy league. Thank you for listening to the Football Dudes Extranomical Fantasy Show. We're not the suits that talk football, we're the dudes that know football. And may your reality and fantasy meld into one extranomical football weekend. For Dave, I'm Casey. We're out of here.